Alex, welcome to Digital Transformation Bite Size. This is a series where I interview thought leaders and experts in the digital transformation space. For those people who don't know who you are, would you mind introducing yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, so I have a couple of jobs. The first one is my main job, which is with a company called Digitisation, where I'm a program director, and essentially we're doing digital transformation. We're building for various local authorities and the states of Guernsey, who are on a weird hybrid of a local authority and a central government. Digital services, the usual kind of list of stuff, everything from bin collections right through to the revenue service, collecting and calculating taxes. So we build, the teams I run build those services using a various mix of Dynamics, Drupal technologies, using all the good stuff laid down by the government digital standard, digital service that we're slowly becoming used to in the UK mainland.
What types of tooling are you using to digitally transform local government?
Well, with as I said, with local government, we're mostly dealing with Microsoft Dynamics, and we use increasingly we're going to be using Dynamics for the front end as well. But I suppose the thing which I think so the other job I should talk about, the other job I have is also have a direct-to-consumer brand, which is designs and sells essentially ranges of outdoor clothing and equipment. And that's where I've been most recently, although we have an RPA practice within Digitisation, that's where I've personally been automating an awful lot of the things that I do as part of my business using the Argos Labs RPA solution. So I think that's how we originally got in touch.
It is, but I'm a nosy guy.
Yeah, no, well, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we're not going down a road you weren't comfortable with.
No, I'm sort of
so
both.
they're the tools we
want to
use.
talk about that though.
Fine, but they're the tools we use. It's predominantly Dynamics, but and we've used Drupal a lot in the past as well. And the reason saying in the past is that I think Microsoft Dynamics is portal functionality is getting better and better all the time, and I could easily see a case where that will become less important using Drupal in the future. But yeah, I suppose clients ultimately don't care. They want a single stop for all their back office solutions, which makes sense. Although you never have a single stop, you never have a single solution for everything, because that's craziness and you never get there, because there's always exceptions to that. But but Dynamics provides a really good, I think, solid central core to everything that happens, and then you can plug whatever into that.
I always find, and it's interesting you're talking about, applications, multitude of applications or whatever else. I think very often the biggest cost of a project is not necessarily the software, it's the change control that's built around it. And therefore, the more you bespoke and the more products you actually get, then the bigger your change management program. And at the beginning, it feels really good and really nice to be able to go, look, we can do all these amazing things. 3, 4, and 5 years down the line, then you're somewhat less excited about all of the change that you need to inflict upon yourself before you can actually earn any money. So it's interesting to start to see that people are navigating back toward what I would call a steady backbone, then with a digital layer on top, the digital layer, the piece changing, and the backbone of the piece staying the same.
Yeah, and I think the certainly my experience before was very much that you don't. I mean, Microsoft products are well known. You don't change them because it's going to cost you an awful lot every time there's an upgrade to make those customizations again. And so therefore, I think that it helps that the tools that we're using are getting better, which means that there's less of a desire or less of a need to customize them, and then you can integrate in and just use them for the back office and the middle office work. Just use them as they come out of the box, which saves an awful lot of time and effort. And then leave the pretty stuff to the thing that's better at the pretty stuff, which is Drupal or whatever.
I like it. And you mentioned a moment ago that you've your own company. So tell me a little bit more about that, because it's interesting. I start to see a lot of people these days who are really, really good at technology or in the technology space, then have is it a side project? Is it a passion project? How would you describe it? And tell us a little bit more about what you're doing.
I think, frankly, the initial reason I set this up was, I suppose that going back a little bit more, I spent years and years, frankly, dicking around with lots of other people's startups, trying to make something happen. And then I realized that I've really just got to do something myself if I'm going to get traction on this. I have a keen interest in the outdoors, and outdoors pursuits, I guess it used to be called. But then I had some ill health a few years ago, and I was contracting. I'd been contracting for 15 years at the time, and I wanted to do something which meant that I was no longer reliant on an income, a main income, if you like, in case it happened again. Obviously, that's less of an issue now because I'm now with the company I'm with, and that's all working out great. But still, I still have that desire to not have to do the main day job forever, which is what everyone always says, I think. And that's really where it started, but that was the seed of it. And then it kind of developed over time as I spoke to friends and colleagues who had friends and colleagues themselves who were buying and selling products on through Amazon, using the Amazon platform. And it kind of went from there. And then I went skiing one year and realized that Merino wool base layers are extraordinarily expensive. And I thought, well, actually, that's a really good place to start. And that's where I started probably 2.5 years ago now.
Tell me a little bit more about the automation side. What's your journey been like?
So I suppose I've got quite a complicated, just what we talked about, quite a complicated IT arrangement or systems arrangement in that I've got Amazon have got their own platform, which is okay. It's, it does what it's supposed to do, but it is quite complicated, and you have to really have a detailed knowledge of how Amazon do things. So that's one. I have Shopify for the Extreme Essentials brand. And the reason I say that, I've got a second brand which is launching, but for the first year, that will just be on Amazon. I've then got QuickBooks for my accounting. I've then got obviously PayPal, Stripe, and various other accounts for payment processing. And then what I've got is that the stock held on starts to get complicated. Essentially, all of my stock is available essentially through my website, but only the stock that's available on Amazon and in Amazon's warehouse is available on Amazon. So what I need to do is make sure that I'm always synced up so that Shopify always knows how much stock there is overall, and therefore I have to get that information from Amazon every night. And I have to have a clean idea when new stock needs to go to Amazon and when I should really be considering ordering new stock from China. And with merino wool goods, that's a 4-month lead time. So, which is a hell of a long time. So what I'm using, so there's an awful lot of things in that which I could easily be doing manually every day, and I decided using obviously Argos. I looked at lots of different things, but I decided to use Argos because it would just save me the time, frankly. So that's what I've been doing at the moment. So I could obviously rattle through all the different things that I've got robots doing, but it's about removing all those repetitive manual tasks which everyone always puts aside, always tedious, no one likes doing. And simply now I just get a notification through Telegram just telling me that the bot's done its job, and I know that the business is, that side of the business is being handled. I'm still there to make the key decisions about, yes, I will send stock, because the robot can't actually put stock in a box and send it up to Amazon. A robot, you can't trust a robot to, order a brand new set of stock, because there's a kind of almost an emotional, financial, gut feel decision based in that as to when you order new stock from China, because of the long lead times and the demand and so on. But nonetheless, all the manual sort of routine tasks are done by robot now.
And I dare ask the question, because you've a technical background there. We talked about that at the very beginning. We couldn't classify you as a citizen developer, because citizen developer comes with no technical experience whatsoever, and then learns automation, learns digitization, learns all these things to allow them to be more efficient in their day job or to run a business more efficiently. So we'll not bracket you as that, but how hard was it to digitize your business? Because I find that fascinating. You've done that, and you do it as a day job as well.
Yeah, so I did learn coding at university, but I wasn't very good at it. So I went into and started developing in what was called Macromedia Flash at the time, which is more like kind of timeline based. So I've got an understanding of coding. I've got an understanding of how it works, but it's quite rusty. But actually, the tool is so simple That's the thing, is if you want to, you could do it very in a very pseudo human way, automating processes by physically clicking on graphics on the screen and saying click there, click clear. um, and that would be perfectly adequate. It might take the bot a lot longer to do something, or it might be a little bit flaky, but it would still work, and it would work really well. But there's also ways that you can improve the development of those bots by using things which are a bit more complicated. Some of the things around how you pick up xref tags and so on HTML pages. For some, I'm sure some people will know what they are. That's great, and that makes actually life a lot easier. But it doesn't always work depending on how the individual's built the website that you're going to. So there's lots of things you learn as you go along. But I've been on building these robots for a couple of months now, and I'm loving it now. I'm just, every time I think of a new idea for something that I've just realized I do manually, I can have a bot up and running quite easily within sort of 4 or 5 hours. And that will, and that's with testing it and making sure it's run through quite a few times, and that's it. And that's quite a complicated, essentially quite a complicated process for some of the things that I'm doing.
You mentioned a lot of other technologies there as well, Stripe, Amazon. Tell me a little bit more about those, because those are something we hear about every day. People having shops on Amazon. I hear Stripe too, Irish guys. Good to see the Irish expanding again. Billion and billion and billion dollars worth of, guys, I'm available, of company in size, but we never hear what people are actually doing with the
It's
technology.
interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because it becomes obvious to me, because obviously we're all used to Amazon on our phones as a shopping destination. Obviously, there's Amazon has a huge presence in AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, which a vast majority of the websites on the web that we all know and love are built on. And that spun off the back of the Amazon shop, because they were building that technology themselves. But it's funny, because the whole world behind Amazon, and it does grate me slightly when they talk about the death of the high street, and how the big retailers are suffering. And I think, well, hang on a minute. If you believe the stats, which you have to, half of the things sold on Amazon in the UK are sold by people like me. All right, maybe not people just the size I am, bigger companies, but they're not sold directly by Amazon. Amazon are just there as the platform. And so it does grate me when they talk about the death of retail, when actually there's been a huge, I think, growth in retail. But the press don't have the numbers to be able to talk about it. But there's a whole platform behind the Amazon website that you see, where you're able to upload your inventory, brand it, put branded content on, advertise on it. And crucially for me, at least, because I have a day job, I don't want to be sat in a warehouse all day fulfilling orders, then I can also send some of my stock to Amazon, and they do the fulfillment for me as well. And they take a fee. They take essentially a finder's fee, and they also take a pack, pick, and shipping fee as well, which amounts to, it's probably about, I'm trying to think now, it's probably about 20% of the retail price. So if you see, £100 on an item in Amazon, the seller's probably giving to Amazon about 20 quid on that, which compared to running a store on the high street is, I think, pretty good value. And it means I don't have to deal with any of that if I don't want to. But equally, if I do have the facilities to run my own warehouse, I can also do that as well, and I will fulfill those orders. Another benefit you get using Amazon is obviously you've got Prime. And so if a customer's got Prime and my goods are in the Amazon warehouse, they're treated like any other Prime good, which in other words, they could get the next day, or whatever the terms are in the country you're in. So that's been fantastic. And if it wasn't for Amazon, I probably wouldn't have started at all.
What about the Stripe and the other technology that you've used as well? How are you integrating that all into how are you automating all of it?
Well, the beauty is that that's all dealt with by Shopify. And that's the main, and so that then we touch on one of the main reasons why I wanted to use my own robot building tools to do this, is that Shopify, again, is a fantastic platform. I would argue, from what I've seen, at least the best one for the type of thing I'm doing. However, and there is a big however with Shopify, understandably they've taken the approach that their business model is they do a very solid, more than a basic offering, but a very solid offering at certain price points. But they're not doing the extra features and the gold plating themselves. They open that up to a marketplace for third-party developers to do. And I'm sure if anyone's got a shop similar to mine that's listening to this, they'll say, well, you can get the plugins, you can get the extensions, or whatever they're called, the third-party modules for Shopify to do all the things that I want to do. And absolutely I can. But the experience I had is that you can switch on any number of these modules or plugins. You're never quite sure if it does quite what you want until you spend the time and money, or in my case, just the time doing it, because they normally have free trials, and actually working it out on your live site. And then you realize that it wasn't quite right and it didn't quite do the thing you do. Or on the flip side, you realize that actually, yeah, it did some of the thing I needed, but I also need another 2 or 3 things. And once you add up all those costs, you're looking at another couple of £100 a month quite easily. And once you add in all the other things that you need to do as part of your growing business, you realize that actually, as a cost baseline, it just becomes, you know, a huge overhead to pay for all these different subscriptions and understand all these different subscriptions that you've got for all these different plugins. And I wanted to do it my way. I wanted to do it the way I wanted it to be done, which felt right for me and felt right for my business. And obviously because I had the skills, or at least I felt I had the skills to start with. That's why I was keen to do it myself, and not rely on all these different plugins within Shopify and within QuickBooks and within all these other different systems. I just wanted to do the glue myself, and then I can easily switch out another system for something else as the whim takes me, rather than being really, really, you know, deep in, up to my neck in a certain platform.
Is there any advice you'd give anyone just who's in your same position or thinking, any short advice you give to someone who's thinking about starting their own business today, tomorrow, or the next day?
I think the answer is just do it. You know, it always seems, you know, when I went contracting and I had to set up a company and do VAT, it always seems so daunting. And then once you're 6 months, a year, and you're like, that was the easy bit. Just get the work in, and then worry about all that stuff. So I would just say, just do it. You know, just have a good idea. Don't get too hung up on what, you know, the logos and the brands and everything else. Just have an idea and just start doing it, because there's so much to learn. Don't overexpose yourself. You know, don't spend too much money on something. Just start out small, build it up, see if you like it, and then, as is the case for me, nearly 3 years later, I'm still here, still enjoying it, and it's still growing. And you know, I think that's the best thing you can do.
And for people who want to contact you, how could they do that? Is that LinkedIn? Is that something?
Just look me up on LinkedIn. That's the best thing. Obviously, that's mostly about my professional profile, my day job, if you like. But equally, if you go to extreme-essentials.co.uk and hit the customer service link there, that will come through to me ultimately. So once the bots looked at it first.
Once the bots looked at it and said, I like it or I don't. I'll put the links in the interview at the end, just because, again, I'll come and buy a top that's
Merino base layers, short sleeve, long sleeve.
Well, long sleeve. Might cry though, based on the fact I paid double for mine over the last couple of months. But let's work with that one. Look, Alex, I really appreciate your time today. Be safe, be good, and I'll see you sometime in the future.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time, Kieran. Take care.
Thank you.